हरि ओम। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः। ओम भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्तुवन्वरीं स्तुष्टुवागंसस्तनूभिः यशेम देवहितं यदायुः। स्वस्ति न इंद्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्ताक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु। ओम शांति शांति शांति। Welcome. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Welcome to the 20th session of Mandukya Karikas. We are currently studying the third chapter called Advaita Prakaranam. Gaudapadacharya is establishing Advaita, and for that he is negating the creation. These are deep revelations contrary to what we experience, but they are brilliantly validated by logic and our scriptures. Dr. Hegde will be introducing and moderating this session. But before that, we will hear a recap of last week's session by Srimati Pannaga. Over to you, Pannaga ji.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Advaita is the crux of all Vedanta. The non-dualism between Jivatma and Paramatma is Satyam, eternally, independently, unchangingly existent and true. If we are looking for lasting peace, security and happiness, we must anchor to this truth alone. Dvaita, on the other hand, is believing and anchoring to the apparent differences in name and form between Jivatmas and between Jivatma and Paramatma. All the scriptures clearly state that this Dvaitam or wrong anchoring is the cause of all samsara. However, Advaita, due to its inherent profoundness, cannot be straightaway grasped by all seekers. Hence, Dvaita is mentioned in the Veda Purva Bhaga as an essential stepping stone to Advaita. In the next slide, we will see how Gaudapadacharya grades seekers depending on their mental capacity to grasp this fundamental knowledge. The Manda or Adhamadhikaris who have neither practiced Karma Yoga or Upasana Yoga have neither purity of mind or focus of the mind. Their minds are riddled with strong likes and dislikes, hence, no reception takes place in their preoccupied minds during Vedanta classes. The intermediary or Madhyamadhikari is one who has done Karma Yoga but not Upasana Yoga. Hence, he has purity of his mind but no focus. Therefore, reception takes place but there is no retention. Arjuna is a classic example of a Madhyamadhikari. The superior Uttamadhikari has sufficiently practiced and mastered both sadhanas. So when he listens to the teaching, his prepared mind easily absorbs it and he is also able to apply it outside of the Vedanta class. These highly qualified ones are very, very rare. Hence, the worshipper worshipped, meditator meditated upon distinction is essential for Mandama and Madhyama Adhikaris. Next slide, sir. However, many seekers and scholars alike hold on to this triangular format of Jiva Jagat Ishvara, believing Dvaita to be the ultimate teaching of the Vedas. Dvaita highlights the apparent differences in the world of names and forms and assumes superiority of their believers. It promotes raga and dvesha by its very nature. Raga towards their god and religion and dvesha towards all others. This is not a sign of spiritual progress. Advaita, on the other hand, is the core teaching of all our scriptures, especially the Upanishads with their Mahavakyas. The Advaitin is not in conflict with Dvaita because he understands the inherent difference in their levels of reality. Dvaita is Vyavaharika Satyam, necessary for worldly interaction and for purifying our minds. But Advaita is Paramarthika Satyam, the absolute reality. The Advaitin uses Dvaita, but ultimately drops these apparent differences, resolves his Raga Dvesha, and claims the essential oneness, Turiyam. Next slide, sir. In verses 19 and 20, Gaudapadacharya further clears any misconceptions about appearances and reality, especially during creation, which is a significant topic in Dvaita systems. They believe that there was originally only one Paramatma, and for some reason, Jivatma separated from the Paramatmas to become samsaris, only to later join the Paramatma again. Gaudapadacharya says that this separation is only apparent. He says, Etat, this changeless Brahman, Bhidyate, multiplies itself into this pluralistic, vast creation, Mayaya, only seemingly or through Maya Shakti. Anyatha katham kathanchana ajam na bhidyate. In any other manner, this changeless, unborn, formless, eternal Brahman can never modify to become the creation. Infinite Brahman does not and cannot become the finite universe, but only appears as such. Next slide, sir. Gaudapadacharya now gives several logical reasons as to why Brahman cannot create or become the universe. Brahman is all-pervading, infinite, while the universe is confined in space and time. Brahman is an eternally existent as the formless, changeless, independent reality, while the universe is a dependent reality. It is born, it undergoes several modifications in form and function, and definitely will cease to exist. The universe appears in the eternal non-dual Brahman through Maya Shakti just as easily or effortlessly as dream worlds appear in the dreamer through Nidra Shakti. Just as the dreamer does not undergo any modification when his dream world appears and disappears, Brahman does not undergo any modification when universes appear and disappear. Brahman remains as it is, pure existence consciousness. The Jivatma and Paramatma never separate or unite. They are always in Aikyam. Swami Paramarthananda ji says, understanding the shortcomings of Dvaita will help build our conviction in Advaita, leading to our spiritual progress. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Panaga, for a very nice summary of the Karikas that we studied in the last class. These are not easy. They are difficult. And you've given us a very nice overview in a very short time. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We are studying Mandukya Upanishad with Karikas, having completed the Vaitatya Prakaranam. The Vaitatya Prakaranam talks about the world being unreal. And the present topic is about Advaita. And Advaita says there is no real world. We have a very charismatic teacher who is none other than Sri Dakshinamurti himself. He is very convincing in his approach, and he hammers out in class after class to help us to realize what we call as Eka Jiva Vada. The only reality is myself. Everything else is not as real, including my body and mind. Because my teacher is so charismatic, and because we have learned to revere our teacher, for the sake of our teacher, in the front of our teacher, we will say, okay, okay. But internally, can you see what is our great difficulty? Class after class, we have only one difficulty. It becomes very difficult for us to accept that the world outside us, it becomes very difficult for us to accept that this world is not so real. Remember, one chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which we all liked, is the Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshana. In the Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshana, what transformed our own understanding is from seeing God as what I saw in the temple and in my prayer rooms and in the images that I have of God in my mind. Can I be able to see God as the whole universe itself? Can I be able to see everything that I experience, including my own body and mind, as Vishwarupa? Now, this is a big jump in our understanding. When we come to the Upanishads take us one step further. There is not that personal feeling that I'm God, but the Upanishads say, whatever you are seeing is Brahman. We have to make it two things. Now, it is very difficult to accept that whatever I'm seeing is not so real, but it is more easy to accept whatever I'm seeing is the form of God. And the same thing in the Upanishads speak about Brahman as existence. Today's topic will be to understand what is this existent Brahman, or the same Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshana from an Upanishadic perspective. And I will repeat again, whatever I experience in every object of my experience, including my own body, including my own mind, is Brahman. Swamiji says, to be able to understand this, it requires a certain intellectual acclimatization. Acclimatization means I have to train myself to understand this. That is why there is a very, in Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a verse which says, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Sat Brahman is something. Sat, just give me one moment. Sat Brahman is something which needs a certain amount of intellectual acclimatization. Otherwise, if your mind is not trained for it, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. That means, if you try to understand what is Sat Brahman through your mind and through your speech, through words, all we have is words. Through the words and speech, if you try to make an understanding, we will come back empty-handed. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya. You do not accomplish anything. But then what do we have? We have this mind, we have our speech. Swamiji says, don't worry. This is true for an untrained mind. All of us have been in this acclimatization. And it is my request to all of us that when we are acclimatized, let us be able to, we will be able to accept this world. Instead of saying the world is not real, I'll be able to see this world as Vishwarupa Ishvara Darshana, or the Vishwarupa is none other than Brahman as existence. Swamiji says something. Two things are required. One is a very receptive and an acclimatized and a trained mind. A trained mind is able to grasp whatever I see, including my body and mind. Remember, 7th chapter, 7th verse. What is that verse? Which says, Mattaha parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. I pervade everything, Shri Krishna says, in an imperceptible manner. So if I become more and more sensitive, and with a teacher like Swami Paramarthananda, who is Sakshat Dakshinamurti, I will be able to see Brahman in the world outside, Brahman in my own body and mind. Now, this is my exercise. Normally, what do we conclude? Now, our mind is clouded by Maya. And Maya will say, this world is a substance. When you say there is an existent wall, there is an existent computer, there is an existent table, there is an existent mobile, there is a mobile, there is a computer. What do you mean by is? We mean the computer or the table is the substance, is a description. That means it is there or it is not there. It is a description whether something is there or not there. So we think that the word is an adjective. Normally, that is how, because of Maya, we say. Now, how do we take it? But according to Vedanta, according to Chandogya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad spends a lot of time on understanding what is this existent Brahman. It begins with this nice verse, father teaching the son. Shvetaketu is the father, Uddalaka is the teacher, who says, Tadeva Saumya idamagra asid ekam eva advitiyam. Advitiyam means non-dual. Now, before this whole creation came into being, he alone was there. And then something happened. What happened? The mind came into being. Just like when we wake up in the morning, but before we wake up, Tadeva Saumya idamagram asid ekameva advitiyam. When we were fast asleep, we are one. There is no dual other. There is no sense of otherness. The moment I wake up, I see myself here and I see all this as not me, as Anatma. And that Anatma is the source of all my problems. Now let us re-look at what is this Anatma. What is this existence? Now they will see, Vedanta says there is no substance called table, chair, desk. Then what is a substance? Isness. There is something that makes it existent. Now, let us see what is this isness or existence. In Sanskrit, the word for existence is vastu. Vasate, that which exists. Astu, asti. You know, that which, these are all most beautiful words. These are all beautiful words to say something is existent, something is there. Now, Swamiji has told us 100 times what is consciousness, not part, product, property of the body, independent entity which enlivens this body. Even if this body drops, consciousness continues to be there, but it is not manifest. Exactly like that is existence. What is existence? Now, look at the wall in front of me. Existence is not a part of the wall. It is not a product of the wall. It is not a property of the wall. It is a distinct entity. It pervades the whole world and makes this wall existent. It is not limited to this wall. It is everywhere. Now, supposing this wall is not there, existence continues to be there, but it cannot be appreciated for want of a medium. That means whatever we know about consciousness is true about existence. That means consciousness is something that enlivens my body. Existence is that which makes the whole world, my body and my mind existent. You've got it. If you've got it, you've got something great. Now I'll repeat the same thing. Now, formless existence, another word is pure existence. Now, existence I see with the computer. Now, what is pure existence? Pure existence and pure consciousness are one and the same. That means pure consciousness enlivens my body. Pure existence gives existence to my body, mind, and existence to the whole world. What is this pure existence consciousness? Normally, I experience consciousness with the body and I experience existence with all the objects. Is it possible to separate and be able to see what is that pure existence consciousness? All students would like to ask. Oh, student, the teacher will say, you can never experience pure existence because it is not an object of experience. If it is not an object of experience and the object is there, it must be the subject. It must be I, the subject. That means I am pure existence consciousness. So pure existence is never something that can be objectified. It is me, the witnessing consciousness. So Sat, the ultimate substance, you can never see because it is you or I, the seer. Now declare for yourself. Whenever you say I, who can say I? This table cannot say I because it is not conscious. Only a conscious person can say I. So whenever you use the word I stands for consciousness. Am is existence. When I say I am, it means I am conscious and I am existent. I am Sat and I am Chit. Now, this is a beautiful verse. The great Bhagwan Ramana has this to say, Sattva Basika Chit Kvave Itara, Sattaya hi Chit, Chittaya hi Aham. We have gone through this many times. All he says, Sat and Chit, where is that Sat apart from Chit? He says, Sat and Chit are one and the same. And that Sat Chit is, claim it as your real self. Sattva Basika Chit Kvave Itara. Where is that Sat apart from Chit? Sattaya hi Chit, Chittaya hi Aham. Now, Vishayananda, supposing there is an object which I like very much. I, through my mind and sense organs, I'm able to see the object of my experience. So whatever is my object of my experience, we will call it as existent. I am conscious. So whenever we wake up, what happens? The mind splits that original conscious existence into existence outside, including my body and mind, and consciousness, the one who is aware of this body, mind, and as long as existence and consciousness are separate from one another, I have samsara. If for you there is a particular object that you like, and you take that object and put it in your mouth if it is something edible, and you close your eyes for a moment, what has happened? Consciousness and existence have come together. Temporarily, you have a feeling of ananda. Now, another example. There are only two examples. The other example is that of deep sleep. In deep sleep, what happens? Sat and Chit have come together. In deep sleep, I have no sense of limitations. When I have no sense of limitations, I experience anantatvam. I experience no limitations whatsoever. And therefore, when there is no limitations whatsoever, I experience ananda. I experience purnatvam. And this is the beauty. I am Purnamada Purnamidam. The moment my mind wakes up, the mind has the ability to separate existence there and consciousness. As long as consciousness and existence are apart from one another, we have this problem of samsara. Now, what to do? We can't keep sleeping all the time. Then what do we do? Even when you are awake, when you become awake, you have this understanding, whatever I'm seeing is myself as existence. So this is consciousness and existence of that. Consciousness and existence are not two things. This understanding brings about a cognitive change. In my mind, I know about Eka Jiva Vada. I alone am. Other than me, there is nothing. Once there is this attitudinal change, samsara is gone and moksha comes into being. Then you can claim. What can you claim? This is called Vrishti Srishti Vada. My eva sakalam jatam. My sarvam pratishtitam. My sarvam nayam yati tad brahmadvayam asmai. I alone, because of me, this whole world has come into existence. I lend existence to this world. I lend consciousness to this body. Every student of Swami Paramarthananda who is here should be able to claim and to exclaim. Exclaim how? Silently. In the peace of your own, not in front of anybody else. Anybody else may take you to a mental hospital. That is why when the great Mansur became enlightened, he exclaimed, Anal Haq, I am that. He had such a realization of my eva sakalam jatam. His teacher, Junior, says, I understand. This teacher was an enlightened master. He said, but people will think you're mad. Don't say that. And in our religion, in Islam, to claim that I am God is sacrilege. Please don't. But Mansur said, what can I do? He's speaking through me. And he started exclaiming loudly, Anal Haq, I am that, I am that. Of course, we know the rest of the story. The executioner was taken, and then the executioner was asked to chop him part by part. And then you know what he tells, my beloved? Don't think you're trying to cheat me by coming as an executioner. You can't fool me. Even in the executioner, even in that existent executioner, he could see Vishwarupa Ishvara. And that is the power of understanding that there is nothing apart from me. There is nobody who can hurt me. Of course, this understanding should be a nishta. It should be a realization. Exactly the same thing is told in the third verse of Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. For 1 week, I want you to prepare. Yasyaiva spuranam sadatmakam asatkalpartakam bhasate sakshat tattvamasi Shri Veda vachasa yo bodha yat ashrita yat sakshat karana bhavetna punara bhavan ambo nidhi. You will not come back to this world of becoming if you have this understanding. I will explain this in the next class. I have taken too much time, so I will not go through this. Next class we will, and I want you to come prepared with the third verse of Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra. Dr. Sundar, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have seen that the Mandukya Upanishad has 12 mantras, and we have also seen that Gaudapadacharya has explained these mantras in 215 Karikas, which are arranged in 4 chapters or Prakaranam. Of this, the first chapter, the Agama Prakaranam, was a general analysis of the Mandukya Upanishad. What this means is, in the Agama Prakaranam, Gaudapadacharya has taken the Mandukya Upanishad mantras and he has explained them. The 7th mantra is profound. It explains the Turiya Atma. 2 important words in the 7th mantra form the basis for the next 2 chapters of Gaudapadacharya's Karikas. From the word Prapanchopashamam, Gaudapadacharya elaborates in 38 Karikas the Mithyatvam of the Jagat. And from the word Advaitam, Gaudapadacharya explains in 48 Karikas the Satyatvam of the Turiya Atma. With this basis, let us have an overview in this next slide. So we can see here that the Advaita Prakarana itself is arranged in 5 topics. First 2 Karikas were introduction or Upodghata, and what we are currently studying, Karikas numbering 3 to 30, form the second topic, which is Shrishti Nisheda or Ajati Vada. Further, we shall see 3 more topics in the coming classes, which is the third topic of Atma Jnanam or self-knowledge, and Nidhidhyasanam, the 4th topic, and finally conclusion, which is Upasamhara. Now, in this next slide, let us look a little more deeper into the second part of this Advaita Prakaranam, which is called Shrishti Nisheda or Ajati Vada. We see Gaudapadacharya explain that there are 2 types of Advaitam. One is called as pseudo Advaitam and one is called as real Advaitam. Advaitam basically means non-duality. When we say pseudo Advaitam, Gaudapadacharya is stating experiences like deep sleep or in samadhi where duality has disappeared. It could also be the case with some addictions or in general anesthesia where duality has disappeared. To differentiate these forms of non-duality with real Advaitam, Gaudapadacharya puts forth 4 foundational principles, which Pujya Swami Paramarthanandaji repeatedly explains in his talks, that to qualify to be real Advaitam, first is we should be able to negate the creation, the origination of this creation. We should be able to negate the experience of creation. And the third point that is a foundational principle is that although the origination has been negated, the creation experience and appearance remains. And the fourth foundation principle explains why such an appearance and experience remains is because one has ignorance of the substratum or the adhishtanam. That is, Atma avidya or Mula avidya causes one to be ignorant of the adhishtanam, and so there is appearance or experience of this creation. Now we can see that in the pseudo Advaitam, these four foundational principles don't hold good. So real Advaitam, therefore, is only when we are able to negate the origination of this creation. So in this section, what Gaudapadacharya is emphasizing is that there is no creation in reality, and this Vada is called as Ajati Vada. This basically says that there is no product which has come out of Turiam, and that Atma or Brahman is neither a cause nor it is an effect. It is beyond Karya and Karana. This may be contrary to our experience where we experience this Jagat. So how to say that it is not there? Then the other issue is the Upanishads themselves elsewhere declare that Brahman is the Shrishti Karanam of this Jagat. So this is explained by saying that initially this Jagat is presented as an effect of Brahman for a junior student, because Brahman is not tangible, whereas this creation is tangible. And this prakriya is called Adhyaropa. And once Adhyaropa comes in, one develops Karma Yoga, which is Ishvara Arpana Bhava, Ishvara Prasada Bhava. And then one does meditation through Upasana Yoga. And then the Adhyaropa part has done its work. One has got Chitta Shuddhi and Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. There has been some spiritual progress in the student, at which time the Apavada part comes in, where the creation has to be negated. So in final analysis, at the end of Adhyaropa Apavada, there is no creation. So this is the point which is being emphasized by Gaudapadacharya here. And in this prakarana, we see this nisheda happening at the logical level as the script, also as the scriptural level. And in each of these levels in the verses, we see negation of jiva happening and jagat happening, one at logical level and at scriptural level. So with this background, let us see the present verse where there is emphasis again at negation of this world. Na bhavati amritam martyam, na martyam amritam tatha. So if we see this line, na bhavati means there is negation happening of amritam martyam. So what Gaudapadacharya is saying here is that there cannot be immortality of the mortal. This appears cryptic, but when we look beyond the words here, martyam actually we should see as anatma. So what in the first half of the first line Gaudapadacharya is telling is there cannot be immortality of anatma. Second part of the first line, na martyam amritam tatha. What is immortal cannot become mortal. Again, it appears cryptic, but what it means is the immortal Atma. So there can never be mortality of the Atma. So to read the first line again, there cannot be immortality of Anatma and there cannot be mortality of Atma. That is what is the meaning of the first line. The second line explains why this is so, and thereby it gives out one of the important foundational principles of Advaita Vedanta. What is that? Prakritehe anyata bhavaha na katanchit bhavishyati. So Prakriti in the Bhashyam we see Adi Shankaracharya explaining as Swabhava, or the nature of a particular thing. In particular, here it is being talked about the intrinsic nature. So the first half of the second line is telling that the Swabhava, or the intrinsic nature, Anyata Bhava means the intrinsic nature cannot be changed. Na katanchit bhavishyati. At any point, at any circumstance, at any place, the core essence of a particular thing will not change. So in the Bhashyam, Adi Shankaracharya takes the example of fire and heat to explain this. So the intrinsic nature of fire is heat. So wherever there is fire, there will always be heat. So the heat, or the heatness, which is the core essence of fire, can never be changed. So that is the principle that Gaudapadacharya is trying to tell here. So in this picture, we can also see the water which is there in the pan. But heat is not an intrinsic feature of water, because sometimes there is heat in water, sometimes it is not. Same is the case with the vegetables also. So although the heat is there in the vegetables, in the water, and in the fire, we can see that heat is the intrinsic nature of fire, while it is a incidental nature of water and vegetables. Incidental nature can come and go, whereas the intrinsic nature will never go. The scriptures have told us that Atma is immortal. That is the intrinsic nature of the Atma. Similarly, for the Anatma, its intrinsic nature is mortality. So this we need to understand. With this, we'll go to the next slide now. And we can see that intrinsic nature never changes. Using this rule, Pujya Swami Paramarthanandaji is able to derive two corollaries. One corollary is at the level of the Jivatma. So we have seen in the previous slide that Atma is ever immortal. It can never become mortal. Similarly, we have seen that the Anatma is always mortal. It can never become immortal. So as a Jiva, who am a combination of Atma and Anatma, through the study of Vedanta or scriptures, what are we trying to achieve? The Atma is already immortal. So there is no need for me to study Vedanta to make Atma immortal. And now this rule is telling that as Anatma I am always mortal. So however much I study Vedanta, I cannot make this Anatma immortal. So Swamiji points out that when we say that we are studying Vedanta to get moksha, we are not trying either of the components to make ourselves immortal. But what we are actually trying to do is to know that there is already the ever immortal Atma already within me. Even before studying Vedanta, it is already there within me. We are now knowing this fact and constantly able to lay claim to this fact. And all our emotional responses are in tune to my firm conviction that my true nature is one of the Purna Atma. So this is the corollary he draws from this verse at the level of the Jivatma. The second corollary, which is at the level of Paramatma, is more relevant to the topic of discussion here, which is Ajativada. When we look at Paramatma, the scriptures have described Paramatma also as immortal. Intrinsic nature of Paramatma is immortal. And we have seen by this rule that intrinsic nature never changes. Now, this word immortal, Swamiji explains, can be interpreted as changeless. How can we interpret immortality as changeless? For this, he takes us to Tattva Bodha and shows how one of the six changes is mortality. Asti, Jayate, Vardate, and finally Apakshiyate. So therefore, mortality is associated with change, while immortality is changeless. Having understood this, he takes us one step further to show that what is changeless is free from cause and effect. Because whenever you look at any cause, how does a cause become an effect? Some change happens in the cause and therefore it becomes an effect. So from here we can see that Brahman is being immortal, being changeless, cannot be a cause. If Brahman cannot be a cause, then nothing comes out of Brahman. That means that there is no origination of Jagat. That means that there is no existence of Jagat. So with this argument, two foundational principles are negated. One is that the origination of Jagat stands negated, existence of Jagat stands negated, but there is still experience and appearance of the world outside me. So here Gaudapadacharya clearly says that we don't have a problem with Dvaita Anubhava. Let Dvaita Anubhava continue at transactional and utility level. But with Advaita Jnanam, let us not place any Satyatvam status to this Dvaita Anubhava. So if this is clear, then we are free from samsara as we play our roles through this world, which is just an appearance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sundar. Very important, Karika, very nicely explained. The immortal never becomes mortal. The mortal never becomes immortal. So that is why in this slide I said there is no corridor between the finite and the infinite. What do you mean by finite? As body mind, I am finite. But I, as a student of Atma, as a student of Vedanta, know I am Atma Brahma, the Mahavakya. So my real nature is I am Atma. That means in all of us there are two things. There is Atma and Anatma. The more I understand that I am Atma and you log on to that, what have we achieved? Now, remember in the Puranas, we have people like Ravana and all those people who do a lot of tapasya. They are able to get the grace of the Lord. They have only one request: can I become immortal? Now, all of us have got that grace. We are immortal. We have been there from the very beginning. We will be there as I am Atma. I lend consciousness to this body. I lend existence to this world. My eva sakalam jatam. Isha Vasyan idam sarvam. Everything is me. That is one declaration that we need to make and be very clear that as I am Atma Brahma. What to do about this body mind? What to do about my possessions, my family? They are all anatma. They are of the nature of mortality. Very nicely said in Manisha Panchakam. Sashwan Nashwaram Eva Vishwamakilam. This whole world, which is anatma that I see and experience, including my body mind, is a perishable commodity. Let us remind ourselves. And therefore, not log on to that perishable commodity. Use that perishable commodity as long as it is available for you. How long it will be available to you? Prarabdaya samarpitam, as per what? Prarabdha. How long I will have all the good things in the world? I do not know. That depends upon my prarabdaya samarpitam. But then what do I do? Till then, nischitya vacha guroho. Reflect on the words of the teacher. What are the words of the teacher? Tatu tvamasi. This is the essence of all the scriptures. I am that. In the quietness of the mind, reflect on that, relish, celebrate. This is the meaning of this beautiful Karika. Let's go to the next one, and that will be Ullas. Ullas, please.
Thank you, sir. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So, we have already seen that there are contradictions that we are being told, and using them, we are trying to establish that certain things which have a certain essential nature, they cannot change the essential nature. And with that, we are trying to tell that all these exercises that we are doing, what they should ultimately be aimed at. So let's look at some of the general rules first. So we already saw that swabhava of something, which is that its essential nature, that can never change. Like fire has heat, water is wet. Whatever happens, that cannot be changed. You can have few more things on top of that, incidental things, but the essential nature cannot be changed. So then the other thing is, whatever is changing is mortal. If something changes over time, then someday it will decay, it will just finish it off. So change is mortal. And in other words, we can say whatever is not changing or whatever is changing can never be immortal. So what is changing is mortal, and something which is changing, it can never be immortal. So if we understand these two things, then the corollary that we can come up with is that immortal cannot become mortal, because as we saw that the swabhava cannot be changed. So immortal cannot become mortal, and mortal can never become immortal. We have already seen these, so it's a little bit of a repetition. And immortal cannot undergo change, because if it had to go undergo change, it would become mortal. And conversely, changing thing cannot become immortal. So there's a little bit of a play of words there. So in the next slide we see, now we'll get into the actual Karika. Swabhavenamrito yasya bhavo gacchati martyatam kritakenamritastasya katham sthasyati nischalaha. So it says that something whose essential nature is immortality, amrita, yasya bhavo gacchati martyatam. Now you are saying that that changes to mortal, and then kritakenamritastasya, something which is mortal, then how can you say that it becomes nischala? How can you say that it becomes changeless? So that's like a little bit of a contradiction. So we'll see in the next slide, like generally what is our understanding is that there is a Brahman, which we understand that it is changeless, it is immortal. But then somehow we think that during Srishti, it becomes a Jiva and Jagat. So then the changeless becomes a changing Jiva and Jagat. That immortal Brahman changes into a mortal Jiva and Jagat. So now the first problem already it has happened, that how can a changeless immortal thing whose essential nature was that change into something which is Jiva and Jagat why during the process of Srishti. And then our next level of understanding is that okay, if I will do all my karma yoga, upasana yoga, all these sadhanas I will do, and then slowly I will get moksha, and then one day this all changing mortal jiva myself will get transformed into a changeless immortal Brahman. So then that is the definition of moksha that we have in our minds. So there is like different contradictions going on in all this understanding. So in the next slide, we see that Brahman is transforming into Jiva and Jagat. So there is different schools of thoughts which say that Brahman transforms. Even we believe that there is a transformation per se, but that's a seeming transformation. It's not a real transformation. So the main word here, the operative word is the transformation verb is fine, but the adjective to that transformation is that it is a seeming transition. It's not a real transformation, because as we know that a changeless cannot ever become changing, a immortal cannot ever become mortal. And then the second big thing that comes is that okay, if we were to believe that this jiva gets moksha, this changing jiva, this mortal jiva gets moksha and becomes changeless immortal Brahman, but then where is the permanence? If we are saying that this Brahman again becomes a jiva someday, so then this cycle keeps on going on. We wanted to get away from that punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, but then we are saying that this Brahman transforms into this. So this whole cycle, that thing in our mind is not correct, that this changes really into that. So there is a seeming, there is an apparent change that appears to happen, and that the permanent thing is that only Brahman is there. All other things are just appearing to be so. So in the next slide, we see that there is a whole lot of contradictions going on. So then what should we do? Should we not do any karma yoga or upasana yoga to get to moksha? So the idea is that, let's say I am in Karnataka right now, and do I have to do any sadhana to go to India? Not really, right? Like not in time, not in space. It is not that tomorrow I can get to India, or I have to travel so much distance to get to India. I'm already in India. So I have to just get that understanding at that jnana level. Whether I'm in Rajasthan, whether I'm in Karnataka, I'm always in India. So there is no sadhana that we need to do for that. We just need to improve our understanding that I'm already always in India. And so when the RCB and Rajasthan Royals match happens, all I have to enjoy is enjoy the cricket and not worry too much about whether I'm in Karnataka or in Rajasthan, because I am already in India. So once we have that bhava of being in India, then I can aram se enjoy the match rather than getting a lot anxiety around, oh, if Karnataka is going to lose, oh, if RCB is going to lose, oh, if RR is going to lose. So once that identification problem gets resolved, then it becomes very easy, and then we are already there. So there is no additional thing to be done for getting moksha. Hari Om, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ullas. So we are reiterating this basic contradiction that we have. There is one aspect in me which is immortal, which is already that which I want. There is another aspect about me which is mortal, which is perishable. What we are trying to do is we are trying to identify with that perishable commodity and trying to make it immortal, which is not possible. More in the next Karika. Apeksha, please.
Hari Om, sir.
So in this verse, in the next Karika, we will be actually addressing one of the biggest objections that will be raised for Gaudapadaji. So it's the verse says, Bhutoto Bhutata Vapi Srichamane Samashruti Nishittam Yukti Yuktim Cha Yattat Bhavati Netrata. So it says Vedic statement is the same whether duality is created really or seemingly or apparently. That which is ascertained by analysis and is supported by reason, not the other way. So let's look at the other slide. So what does this mean? Next slide. So here an objection is being raised. So like we say, Gaudapadaji says the origin of the world should not be accepted. Even if Veda says the world has not originated from Brahman, even if Veda says otherwise. So does that mean that Gaudapadaji didn't accept Vedas as a source of knowledge? Or was he a Buddhist? So this was the objection raised. Next slide, sir. So here the answer is Gaudapadaji did say he accepted the Vedas because he has quoted several Shrutis, Pramanams and Vakyam, and this Karika itself is a commentary on an Upanishad. And Upanishads clearly are based on discusses about this, that the origination of the world is from Brahman. But then why is he contradicting the Veda Pramanam? This is the objection that was raised here. So the answer is given next slide, sir. The answer says, Gaudapadaji never said Veda is wrong. But we should always, see Vedas in its total entirety. And a couple of examples will be given in the later slides. Veda does not talk about the actual creation of the world, but only a seeming origination of the world. So now you will be confused. What does this seeming origination of the world means, right? Changeless Brahman, which is changeless, right? You cannot accept that one which is changeless can produce the world. It is an illogical statement. Even if Veda says it, this statement should be properly interpreted because in a proper way. And in next slide, we will say how do we have to interpret it. Next slide, sir. So Veda is not wrong. They are the accepted pramanam, right? But this statement should not be blindly accepted. And how? It should be interpreted in such a way that it is not logically contradicted. So we will see. Next slide. So in some places we'll see. So example is here. In some places we'll see the Veda says that Swarga is finite in nature. But then in some places, the same Veda will say that the celestial beings in Swarga who are living there are immortal. So how is that possible when Swarga is finite and Swarga, the celestial beings who are living in Swarga are immortal as per Veda? The interpretation here means that the immortal means they refer to a very, very, very long life. It's like saying, if you have a government job, you'll have a permanent job. So job is relatively permanent, right? It's not like it's always permanent there. So it's all relative. It is all seeming. It is all apparent. Next slide, sir. So in next slide, he will even explain, he'll give one more very nice example. We'll see. So Gaudapadaji says that Brahman creating a world is illogical. If Veda says that, no, it should be interpreted properly. It's just like when we say, I, the waker, created this dream world. So did I really create the dream world? The Brahman I seemingly created the dream world in my dream, right? So similarly, the Brahman also seemingly created the world. Right. So it is actual or seeming that we have to interpret in the right way. So there's no doubt that there's a statement of origination. But the Shruti here does not clarify whether the creation is actual or seeming. That is left on us. Next slide, sir. So here is a very good example from our daily life. When we talk about sunrise in our life, right? Sunrise, we say, oh, what a beautiful sunrise. So does we actually say, is it an actual sunrise or is it a seeming sunrise? Because sunrise is not true, right? We all know that, but it is, we seemingly see the sunrise. That sun is rising from that direction, but sun is not actually right. So it's a seeming sunrise that we are seeing, right? So similarly, in the case of Veda, is it actual or seeming creation that it is talk about? So here, by logic, we should only take that it's the seeming creation because the other one, the changeless Brahman, cannot create the whole world. The other one is very contradictory to logic. Next slide, sir. So the conclusion here will be, and how do we come to the conclusion? So he says, when you thoroughly analyze the Upanishad, by the use of Mimamsa and Tarka. What is Mimamsa? Is just the analysis of the Vedas or any text to know the intention of the author. And then you use the Tarka, that is the logical analysis behind it. And after such analysis, what is logically possible, in this case, the seemingly creation of the world, you should alone accept that. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you very much, Apeksha, for a nice explanation of another Karika. Bhutata abhutata. Wow. Now, this is the dilemma. Is this creation real or is this creation unreal? I began the whole discussion. Am I seeing a real creation? Am I seeing an unreal creation? Now, when you have this doubt and you go to the scriptures, a large part of the scriptures talk about creation. And then a small part of the Vedanta portion speak about no real creation. And that leaves all of us a little confused. Now, which should I believe? First of all, I can't believe, that the world is unreal. And now you're trying to say, although the scriptures, 40%, 90% of them saying the world is real, and 10% of them are saying unreal, what should I believe? Now, exactly like what Apeksha said, how do you interpret scriptures? Through Mimamsa and through Tarka. Tarka means logic. Mimamsa means the science of interpretation, of course, through the help of a guru, and the guru goes by Bhashyam of people like Adi Shankara, who give the reasons why it should be interpreted in a particular way. Now, whenever we have a dilemma between scriptures saying one and then seeming to contradict, we have to go by what is called the Vachyartha and what is called the Lakshartha. Vachyartha is the literal meaning. Lakshartha is the contextual or the interpreted meaning. Now, this interpreted meaning can come only if the student is oriented to say, what is the Tatparyam? What is the Shruti? What does the scripture want me to know? Now, Swamiji says, whenever a politician makes a speech, a politician will make so many talks, but there is a bottom line of every politician's speech. Please vote for me. Let me be your representative. What is the Tatparyam of all Vedanta? Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. You are already that. You are Brahman. You are the only reality. Got it? Everything else is not so real. Now, with this background, if you go, then you will be able to understand why the Veda Purva will give contradictory teachings, which is given as an Apavada. Now we have come to Mandukya. In Mandukya, you will see Apavada. Na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na tirtha, na veda, na yajnaha. Everything is negated. Dr. Vasumati, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Karika number 24 goes like this. Nehananeti cha amnayadi indro mayabhirityapi ajayamano bahuda mayaya jayate tu saha. Tatparya, from such scriptural passages as there is no multiplicity in Atman, Indra through Maya, though, verily appears to have become many only through Maya, though we know Atman never is born. Next slide, sir. In the third chapter of Mandukya Karika, Gaudapadacharya extracts 4 important and profound messages about the status of the waking world, the world experienced by all of us. This was dwelt in the previous classes also, but it's still worthwhile going through them again. The messages are: the existence of the waking world is to be negated. 2. The origination of the waking world from Brahman is to be negated. 3. The appearance and the experience of the waking world ought to be accepted. 4. The cause for the appearance and experience of the waking world is to be understood as self-ignorance or Maya. Self-ignorance in Mandukya Karika, Mandukya Upanishad means the Turiya Agnanam. Next slide, sir. Gaudapada is stressing these 4 points by addressing and analyzing them from various angles. He points out that there is consensus among all the Upanishads with regard to the message. The Upanishads repeatedly say that the world originated from Brahman. Gaudapada says that the Upanishads do not say what type of origination. Is it seeming or actual? Gaudapada says that in the creation, we see that everything has two versions, seeming or actual. Therefore, one cannot go strictly by Srishti Vakyam, but has to go and look for some more clues. This is called Mimamsa, Vedic analysis. Whenever a Vedic idea is vague, you look around for some clues from the other areas of Veda to get clarification about a particular vague idea. Gaudapada says that Mimamsa supports him in that the origination is not an actual one, but is only apparent. Later, he also says that not only Mimamsa supports him, but logical analysis also supports him. That is, both Mimamsa and Tarka establish the conclusion that creation is not an actual creation. When we talk about sunrise, as Apeksha mentioned, we never refer to it as a seeming sunrise, but when inquired into, it is known to be an apparent one. Next slide, sir. The following verses are all clues for an apparent creation. Gaudapada takes mantras from other Upanishads to support his conclusion. First, he takes a mantra from Kathopanishad. The mantra says that a pluralistic universe is not at all there. If a world has really originated from Brahman, the Upanishad should have said that a real universe is there originating from Brahman. It does not say that. Therefore, the origination is as though origination. If the creation is real, Veda will not have negated it. Veda negates the pluralistic universe, and so the creation must be apparent. Instead of quoting the entire mantra, Gaudapada is quoting only two words, Neha Nana. This is clue number 1 for the apparent origination. Next slide, sir. The second clue is from Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. So let it be understood, says the great Rishi, that the master magician, who can be called great Mayavi, the supreme being, who is designated here as Indra, the lord of all beings, appears in such manifold forms that it is impossible for the physical eyes to connect the forms with the circumstances in which they are really placed. Brahman multiplies into many through its Maya Shakti, or produces this universe through its Maya Shakti. Maya is generally used in the meaning of magic. Whatever magically happens does not really happen. In Dakshinamurti Stotram, we see in the line in verse 2, to him who, like a magician or even like a great yogin, displays by his own will this universe. This is clue number 2. Next slide, sir. The third clue is taken from Purusha Sukta. Ajayamano bahuda vijayate is the line from Purusha Sukta. This means that Bhagavan produces the world without actually producing. Without multiplying into plurality, Bhagavan multiplies. This is possible only by seeming multiplication through Maya Shakti, like a dream by Nidra Shakti. By using the word Mayaya, Gaudapada reminds us of a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which conveys a similar idea. Chapter 4, verse 6, Krishna says, even though I am unborn, I am born. This is not logically possible. The only way of explaining is that even though I am not born, I am seemingly born through Maya Shakti. This is clue number 3. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vasumati. Very powerful Karika, where through one Karika, he brings in Yamadharmaraja's message, Neha Nananti Kinchana, nothing else other than you. There is nothing else. Then, of course, through other Brahadaranyaka Upanishad and the Purusha Suktam, Gaudapadacharya is giving a very strong thing that there is Eka Jiva Vada, you alone are. But then what to do with all that? We modify. We can take it as Vishwarupa Ishvara, or Brahman in the form of existence. The last Karika for today, Dr. Sheila, please.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Karika 25 of Advaita Prakaranam is Sambhuteha apavadat cha sambhavaha pratisiddhyate. Kono enam janayet iti karanam pratisiddhyate. We know now that this Gaudapadacharya is negating the Srishti, that is creation. To explain this, he takes the Shruti Pramanam from Isha Vasya Upanishad and Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. In the next line, to explain the first line of Karika, Acharya refers to Isha Vasya Upanishad, that is 11th and 12th mantra. Sambhuti here refers to Hiranyagarbha Upasana mentioned in 12th mantra. In the next slide, who is Hiranyagarbha? According to Upanishad, Hiranyagarbha is first born out of Brahman. It is Pratama Jaha and is called Karya Brahma. Sambhava here means Srishti. So, Andam Tamaha Pravishyanti iti Sambhuteha Apavadat. Hiranyagarbha is criticized as an object of Upasana, which indirectly is criticizing the Srishti itself. So, if Hiranyagarbha is really born, it cannot be criticized. But when Upanishad is criticizing it, it should be unreal. For this, Purva Pakshi raises an objection. They say Upanishad is saying it is seemingly criticizing the Upasana by using the word Andam Tamaha Pravishyanti. So for this, Shankaracharya refutes and says, Upanishad never advises a person to drop the Upasana, but to combine it with Vaidika karmas, which is nothing but Panchamaha Yajnas. So he says, Karma Upasana Samuchaya should be done. Here in this mantra 12, criticism is not evident. That is, Upasana Ninda is not clear. Only Samuchaya alone is evident. So criticism or indirect criticism becomes evident in the 11th mantra of Upanishad. So in 11th mantra, Karma Upasana Samuchaya is named as Avidya. Avidyaya Mrutyum Tirtva. Avidya is ignorance. Both karma and upasana comes under spiritual ignorance, and it is criticized by using word avidya. Then what is the benefit of karma upasana samuchaya? Benefit given is mrutyum tirtva. Mrutyum means raga dvesha based action or instinctive action, which causes antakarana ashuddhi or mental impurity. So this karma upasana samuchaya helps in removing the impurities of mind and also helps in vairagyam. But palam is not jnanam or moksha. So it is criticized. Vidyaya amrutam ashnute. By Vedanta vichara alone, that is jnanam and moksha will be attained. That is nothing but shravanam, mananam and nidhidhyasanam. So now one should understand Hiranyagarbha is not non-existent. Negation of Hiranyagarbha doesn't mean negation of its existence. It means Hiranyagarbha is mithya, which has got relative existence but not an absolute existence. So the criticism is, it is criticized in comparison to Satyam, that is Brahman. With this, Acharya explains the first two words of the first line of Karika, that is Sambhuteha Apavadat. The next slide. Now, there's a second line of Karika 25, that is Kono Enam Janayet Iti Karanam Pratisthyatyate. For this, Acharya gives another Shruti Pramanam, which is taken from Brahadaranyaka Upanishad, 3rd chapter, 9th section, and 28th or 7th words. Question asked by Yajnavalkya to other Vedic scholars in a debate. Kono enam janayet. Who is the creator of these jivams? The word jiva refers to Ajnana Jivaha here in Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. What is Ajnana? That is Jnanam. Ajnana Jivaha. He goes back to, that is after the death, he goes back to Maya, and Maya is in Brahman, and Maya Sahitya Brahman is Ishvara. So all jivas remain in Karana Shariram, which contains Sanchita Karma, and Ishvara alone again recreates jivas, etc. in the next Chitti. So Ajnani Jivaha goes through Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam cycle. But in Mandukya Karika, the second line, Gaudapadacharya assumes the word that is enam as Jnani Jivaha, where will this Jnana Jivaha go or after the death? Who will create this Jnana Jivaha? Jnani Jivaha merges with Brahman without traveling or without undergoing any change. In the next slide, a standard example of rope and snake is given in Vashyam. The snake, which was produced by ignorance and which is negated by knowledge, what will happen to that snake after the death? Can you say it has got Sanchita Karma and gone to Karana Shariram? And will it be born again in the next Janma? No. So avidya, that is the ignorance of snake, is gone by the knowledge. So nobody can reproduce rope and snake once again, and that too the same rope and snake. Similarly, nobody can create this Jnani Jivaha, who is none other than Brahman. A Mithya Vastu, which is produced by avidya and which has been negated by knowledge. There is no cause which can reproduce a Mithya Vastu. The last slide. Finally, Shankaracharya gives a quote from Katha Upanishad and concludes, Nyayam Kutaschina Bahuva Kaschit. He says, Atma doesn't come out of anything and nothing will come out of Atma alone. It is neither Karyam nor it is Karanam. Therefore, no universe is born out of Brahman. Brahman was always there, will be there, and is always there. Thank you. Hari Om. Shri Guru Namaha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sheila. As we are studying these Karikas, you will see so many quotations from Isha, Vasya Upanishad, Kathopanishad, Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. And if you get the chance to study Shankara Bhashyam, you have another so many. And of course, his most favorite is Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. Once upon a time, we studied this beautiful Isha Vasya Upanishad, very cryptic, very difficult. And there is a verse 11 where there is a criticism of Hiranyagarbha. And Gaudapadacharya says when Hiranyagarbha, the creator, has been criticized, it should be taken as there is no real creation. So ultimately, what we're trying to say is give more importance to the experiencer. Give relatively less importance to the experienced unless you're going to treat it as Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam or Brahman as in the form of existence. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
There is no real creation. There is no samsara. There is only one infinite, eternal, changeless reality, appearing as many and finite. Advaita Prakaranam, what we are studying now, is helping us tremendously understand this. However, to bring about conviction and accept that this world is not so real, we have to repeatedly study consistently and systematically, listen to our Guru and Shastra, make notes, find somebody to share these notes with, teach, read, and meditate on these studies. Gratitude to our Gurus. Thank you, Dr. Hegde, and all the speakers of the day. Gratitude to our listeners who motivate us and allow us to share our learnings. We meet again on Monday, the 7th October, for our 47th session on gift, Gita for inner freedom and transformation. We will be studying shlokas from the 9th chapter. The often quoted shloka 9.22 will come in this session. Ananyas chintayanto mam ma jana paripasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. So do log in. Let us conclude with our prayers. Om Purnamada Purnamidam पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ